It's all about risk and transparency. And when organisations, be they public or private, adopt environmental, social and good governance, they become more transparent. And when they become more transparent, they've seen that they've got very, very good management and management systems in there. Then the sustainability of the organisation or the project and the project boundary is clear and it's precise. And investors then will be knocking on the door and saying, we want to come in, we want to invest in you, because what we see you're doing now is that you can make good money for us. And we, not only just money, but we can actually see what you're going to be doing, that the money which we're going to be investing will actually have an effect on the ground, and it will be leveraged into other areas as well. One thing which I didn't raise that much in my speech was the point of legacy. A lot of the problems in all development projects is that when the funding stops or the champion moves away to something else or the government changes, it stops dead. And all the money and all the resources and assets and the people's energy finishes there as well. And it's actually better if within any program that there's a built-in system to continue beyond and leveraging that energy and those people's ideas and motivations onto other things.
Nigeria's growing demand for power is one of the major problems facing the country. The Nigerian government has criticized major oil companies for failing to provide sufficient backing for the state-sponsored independent power projects, which are intended to set up a viable and effective power sector to satisfy the growing domestic demand for electricity.
We are talking about reducing emissions, and one of the ways we can reduce emission and reduce energy consumption is to apply low energy bulbs. So we are looking at that, and sometimes even when we're talking about energy consumption, we do not also look at how we conserve such energy to be able to redirect the energy towards the manufacturing sector. So one of the things that we're doing in Akwa Ibom is to look at the manufacture of low energy bulbs, which will ensure that the overall consumption of energy is reduced, and that way we can redirect the energy that is available to manufacturing sector.
We're here to bring technologies to Africa that might be benefited by the people of Africa, not just the technology, but also bring jobs, bring training, and help to empower the country. We're not here to take anything out of the country. We're here to bring resources to the country. And I think that the strength of Africa is to empower from within. The strength of Africa is in its own people. We're not here to take away natural resources, diamonds, copper, gold, no. We're here to create and generate energy. And that energy can translate into clean water, more food, better hospital care, better education. I think that's a win-win for the African continent. Well, policy-wise, there has to be a really serious commitment on climate change legislation. Unfortunately, in my country, in the United States, we're not getting that type of leadership from the top. I think Nigeria can take the lead on the African continent to promote development of climate change and climate change activity. At the same time, I think that each state, it is incumbent upon each state to embrace their own climate initiatives and let state policy drive federal policy.
People went through a particular route of development, does not mean that we must go through exactly the same route. We should actually take a better route. You understand? We should take a better route. If the better route, what we should look at is what is good for us. If it is good for us to go exactly the same way they went, yes, so be it. That's the way we should go. If it is, however, better for us to take a different and improved route, why abandon that? That's the issue. It took them 20, 50, 100 years to do certain things. We don't have to go that route. We may be able to do it in less, in 5 years. In doing their own, they created lots of problems, We don't have to create those problems.
Companies, markets, individuals, or other entities who wish to invest in carbon credits usually receive offers from promoters of carbon credits. Usually, carbon credit certifications, voluntary emission reductions, certified emission reductions are offered. This instrument does not guarantee that their holders can sell or trade their carbon credits. Investors must need skill and experience to ensure they are not just purchasing empty and void transactions. Carbon credit trading follows an emission trading pattern by capping greenhouse gas emissions. Markets are then used to allocate the emissions to groups of regulated sources. In this way, market mechanisms are allowed to determine the industrial and economical processes in the direction of low emissions or less carbon-intensive approaches than those used when there is no cost to emitting carbon dioxide and other GHGs into the atmosphere.
GEFTI Level 1 is Green Education for the Youth, and this deals with the advocacy. We have GEFTI Level 2, which is Green Empowerment for the Youth. We found that after dealing with secondary school students and going into tertiary institutions, again administering advocacy and creating awareness, the young ones wanted to know how to put food on the table, and it was all right to say that, okay, yeah, so we understand we need to plant trees and blah, 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 but how do we earn a living from that? And that took us into teaching them, exposing them how the job opportunities in areas of like renewable energy, solar energy and water view. We had several hands-on workshops and skill acquisition programs. We actually sometimes are at the refuse dump teaching them that every single thing in the refuse dump is actually more often than not recyclable, what they can use it for, where they can take, just waste management generally.
Climate change is a cross-cutting issue. It's a multi-sectoral issue, interministerial issue. And first of all, we key into what is being done at the national level. You're aware of the nationally determined contribution that government has put in place and what is expected of subnationals to key into them in the various subsectors that have been initiated that form part of the nationally determined contribution. That's in transport, oil and gas, industries, agriculture and all of that.
Right now, our focus primarily is on solar and on hydro. We're looking at the most efficient, most inexpensive ways of generating electricity. There are many types of renewable energy, but not all renewable energies are necessarily cost-effective. And so I'm mainly interested in promoting the most cost-effective means of generating electricity that can meet the demand, but be reasonably inexpensive to the people and to the governments of the countries of which I'm involved.